Hey, Zach Tyler here. This is video number 3 in my free course on how to build passive income streams using WordPress. To watch all of the training videos in the correct order, you can find all of them for free on my website at zylercade.com/free-training. Enjoy. Please note, some sections of the original course content have been modified or removed in order to make this content relevant and up to date for 2024. If this is your first time going through the course, just know that this video is being recorded a little while after all of the original course videos. So I recently had some issues with GoDaddy, and I've had several issues with them in the past, over the past couple of years, which is, again, one of the reasons why I was looking at switching. But unfortunately, after I built my website for the example in the course, I ran into an issue where the database for the website got deleted. So when I tried to contact their support and tried to have it restored, long story short, it was a huge debacle. It was a problem. Their system broke. Their restore didn't work. And I basically said, you know what, screw it, I'm done with GoDaddy and I am switching all of my stuff over now. So I essentially have to rebuild the entire site again, which would now be the third time that this has happened. And because I'm also working on other projects simultaneously, this website is just kind of getting temporarily put on the back burner. So with that being said, if you are, trying to go look at this website for an example, unfortunately, I apologize, it's not going to be available for you to look at. But I wanted to take the opportunity to create this video. I am going to go through a quick website setup just to show you the process, as it's kind of different from using HostGator or GoDaddy. So once you get your SiteGround hosting, which the plan that I went, so I'm just going to go look at their different options really quick. So if you look at their different options, I went to hosting and web hosting, and they have 3 different plans. They have the Startup, the Grow Big, and the Go Geek. Currently, again, depending on when you're watching this video, right now they're offering plans for 80% off. So I went with their Go Geek option. It allows for unlimited websites. It's got a good amount of space. It gives you all the free stuff, that we mentioned in the course. I'm not going to go super in depth with here. They also do, backups and things like that, which is another great thing. Which is, again, one of the problems I have with GoDaddy is they do not offer free backups. They offer a free backup, and it gets backed up daily. Your website gets backed up daily. So every day there's a new backup, but it only goes back that one day. So if you make a change, let's say I make a change on, Friday, and then I don't realize until Monday that there's an issue, well, I can no longer back it up because I can only back it up to the one day previous. So that's one great thing that I have come to learn about SiteGround, is that their backups go up to 30 days for free. So as long as you need to restore within 30 days, or as long as you try to restore, you have an issue within 30 days, you can back up or restore up to 30 days, and it does all this automatically, which is awesome, and you don't have to pay extra for it. So that's the first thing. Like I said, I did go with the Go Geek. As we mentioned in the course, you want to get a hosting that has unlimited websites, so I suggest not going with the Startup because that only allows for one, whereas the Grow Big or the Go Geek offers both unlimited websites. So they're also doing, like I said, the 80% off if you get, at least a year up front. So I went with the Go Geek. Now, once you get your hosting plan and you log in, this is going to be your home, and it kind of gives you like this featured section, gives you some suggestions that I cleared all my notes because I didn't need them. But you're just going to come up to this website section, and this will obviously start out as blank. So what you're going to want to do is just come up to here on the top right where it says New Website and click New Website. Now, if you only have one hosting plan, this shouldn't pop up. It'll just automatically go to the next screen. But because I have 2 of them, I have one for my personal stuff and one for my business, I do have to select which hosting I want to do. So I'm just going to go ahead and click that and click Continue. And now it's going to ask us, do we want to use a new domain name, meaning do we want to buy a new domain name? Do we want to use an existing domain name, as in do we already own it? Or you can also use what they allow as a temporary domain name. So if you either don't have the domain yet or you're still deciding, you can do that. I obviously, like I said, in the course, I buy all my domains on Google. So I'm going to go with the existing domain because the domain name that I'm going to use, I already own. So I'm going to click Select, and I'm going to, down here, put what my domain name is. So tylerco.com, which is a new one that I just bought, another project I'm going to be working on shortly. Click continue. And now it's going to ask us, so do you want to start a new website, so a fresh install, or do you want to migrate your website? Now, what I have been in the process with doing is, because I already have several websites that I'm moving from GoDaddy over to SiteGround, I have been using this process, the migrate, for several of them, but any of the ones that I am creating as a new website, you can either do start new website and click select here, and it will ask you which application you want to do, or you can just click skip and create an empty website, and this will allow you to go back and do it later. For the purposes of this, I'm just going to go with this start new website and click select. I'm going to scroll down and I want WordPress, so I'm going to click select. For the login, just like we set up before, you're going to need a username and a password for an account, so I will go ahead and use this email address, the password that I generated, and click continue. Now it's going to ask you if you want to implement Site Scanner. I'm not going to do that. If you want to, you can click add up here. It does cost some money. Personally, I don't add any of the extra features, so we're just going to go ahead and click finish. And now it is creating our website. And so what it is doing right now is it's installing all of the WordPress files. It's creating the add-on domain, as we talked about before, which will create a folder in our subdirectory. It is creating our database for us, and all of this is happening automatically in the background. We don't need to manually do any of that stuff. So it'll just take a minute, and once it is done, we will jump to the next section. Okay, so it has finished installing. Here we are, it says you're all set. And now, just as we did before in the course, we have to point our domain name. We have to change the name servers to point our domain name to this site. So here my name servers are right here. I already have my Google domains open, so I'm going to open up the URL, the domain name that I set it as, xylerco.com. I'm going to come over to DNS, just like we did before, custom name servers, and I'm going to go to SiteGround and copy this first one and put that there, and then copy the second one and put that there. Click save. And then I also, because I'm on Google, have to click switch to these settings. Again, you're not going to have to do this. If you're using a domain name on SiteGround, if you bought your domain name with SiteGround, then it will just automatically work. But obviously, as I've mentioned before, I put all of my domain names on Google. So now that is done, I just go to Site Tools, and this is going to show us kind of the back end. This is SiteGround's version of the cPanel. They don't call it the cPanel, but it is essentially the cPanel and has all the same options. So we're currently looking at this website. You can see up here, xylerco.com. If I wanted to switch which website I'm looking at, I can just go to change, or I could just go back to my account and go to my websites and go from there. But here we have our dashboard, which is just kind of some quick access stuff, not really anything super important. Then if we go to site, this is going to be where our file manager is. So all of the files, they put it in that public HTML folder. And unlike GoDaddy, where we could see all of our websites in that root directory, it is not the same for SiteGround. So each website is going to have its own public HTML. So you're just going to choose, right, like which website you want to go to, and then you'll open that up, and then it will have its own public HTML, and then this is where all of your WordPress files are going to be. If you need to create an FTP account or access your database, which we didn't super get into, and you're not going to really need to do any of that, so I'm not going to dive into that here, but this is where you would do that. Then from a security perspective, this is where you'll have your backups. So once 24 hours is gone, it will start creating a backup every 24 hours. Your SSL manager, so this is where it will create an SSL certificate for you. It should automatically do it after a few minutes, but if it doesn't, you can just come over to here and click this Let's Encrypt wildcard, and then click Get, and it will go through the process, give it a few minutes, and once it has done that, it will show that there is an SSL certificate installed. When using SiteGround, there are going to be a few differences compared to when we were using like GoDaddy or HostGator. For one, we are not going to use Cloudflare, and the reason for that is the reason why we use Cloudflare was to enforce that SSL was the first reason, And second reason was for the caching and to speed things up. Neither of those are needed when using SiteGround. So we can actually take those steps out, so it makes it a little bit quicker. Okay, now that SSL certificate has been installed, then we can come down to HTTPS enforce and just click this little button right over here. And now it will force that HTTPS, which is the same thing that was happening when we were using Cloudflare. So now we no longer need to use Cloudflare, which is great because it just takes out that extra step. And we come down over to this speed section. This is where it does that caching. So like I mentioned, that was another reason we were using Cloudflare. We no longer need to do that because SiteGround automatically does caching. So they have this Nginx direct delivery, which you can't see it because it's under my face, but under the bottom right, there's a little button that you can click. It's on by default. You've got the dynamic cache, same thing, a different type. And then you've got this memcache, which is for the database, which by default it's turned off. You can turn it on if you want to. I'm going to turn it on because it doesn't hurt. And now all of those are set. Then you've got WordPress. If you had installed a blank website, right, like we did the automatic install, so it just installed WordPress by itself. But if we hadn't done that, then this is where you would actually come to install it. But we already have it right here. We can see that it's there. We don't really need to worry about any of this stuff. Domains, this is where you can do, if you need to change anything for like your DNS records. Again, we're not going to get super into detail because you shouldn't need to do this when just building your website on here. Subdomains, things like that, we don't need to get into. But if you ever need to change a subdomain or add a subdomain, that's where you would do this here. Emails, we're not going to get into. And then the last part would just be this dev section, which again, don't super need to get into, but if you ever need to change your PHP version, which you're probably not going to, but I just want you to know where it is, they do a manage PHP version, which means that they will automatically update this for you when it's needed. But if you ever, for some reason, need to manually do it, you can change that version here. Again, don't really need to do this. Shouldn't be important, shouldn't need to do it, but just for your information. So now that we have installed that website here, literally same way as we did before, now I can just go to my website. So I can either go to the website, right? And by default, we will see that here's the default, setup. And if I do /wp-login.php, it will bring us to the login screen. Or you can actually, depending on how you install WordPress, if you did it the way that we did it in here, you can actually come down to the WordPress section, go install and manage. And if you scroll down, again, it's behind my face, so you can't see it. But there is a little button that says login to admin panel. If you click that, it will actually redirect you to that page. And so now it's going to send you through the setup process. I personally don't want to do this because, again, I'm going to do everything manually myself. So I'm just going to click exit. But now it just default logged me in, and here we go. Some other things to mention if you're going to use SiteGround. Remember how again, depends on if you've gone through the course yet or not, we installed a few plugins for speed, and we installed a few plugins for security. Now, the ones we did for speed was Autoptimizer, WP Supercache. You do not need to install those. You will still install Jetpack because you want to be able to use it to re-share your posts to the other websites. And then for security, we did WordFence. You're not going to need to install Autoptimizer. You do not need to install Heartbeat Control. You do not need to install WordFence, and you do not need to install WP Supercache. So those 4 plugins you do not need to install if you're going to use SiteGround, because SiteGround comes with default caching, optimizer, and security plugins. Please excuse the quick interruption. If you're watching this on YouTube and you're finding this video helpful so far, please hit the like button and subscribe for more helpful content like this. And if you are enjoying this content, then you will love my free community. Lazy Worker University is a free membership-based community dedicated to helping you unlock your potential by teaching you various digital skills and passive income strategies. Some of the things that you'll find inside include monthly group coaching calls, comprehensive courses, courses, community connections with other like-minded entrepreneurs, networking opportunities, and so much more. You can join for free by visiting zylercade.com/LWU or by using the link in the description below. Now, back to the training. So that first one is going to be right here, this SG optimizer. If I go to dashboard, it gives us a couple different options. Do you want to collect technical data? Sure, we'll confirm that. So they have a caching section, environment, front end, and media. So caching, we'll just go to that one. To start, dynamic caching, yes, we want that on. File-based caching, yes, we want that on. And the memcache, yes, we want on. Just so you know, in order to turn this memcache one on here, you have to make sure you also turn it on SiteGround. So if I come back to SiteGround, come to speed, come to caching, and go to memcache, you have to make sure that this is on, otherwise it will not let you turn it on. This automatic purge, yes, we want that. I also click this when clearing the cache. We also want it to purge the API. Great. So that's good for, I think I just disabled it. Yes, I did. Let's re-enable that. So that's going to be it for caching. Next, we'll come down to the environment tab. HTTPS enforce, we also want to click this. For some reason, so far, I have noticed sometimes this doesn't work for me depending on how I installed the SSL certificate. So I've noticed that if the SSL certificate gets automatically installed, like you saw me a minute ago manually do it. I clicked the, let's do this, and I clicked get, and I manually did it. For some reason, when I do that, and we turn the HTTPS enforce on here, it won't let me do it here. I don't understand why. See, there it says, please install an SSL certificate. Clearly, we already have one installed, so I don't know why it's giving me that error. With that being said, it's not a problem. It is being done on the back end. It's being done by the server, so we don't need to worry about that. It's not a problem. Here, we've got the WordPress heartbeat optimization. Remember how we installed the heartbeat control plugin? That is what this is doing. So you no longer need that plugin because it's doing it for you. And again, you can disable it, I'm going to disable this one. And then move down to the front end option. So do you want to minify files? This first one, the minify CSS files, I will turn that on. That's it. That's all I'll do for that. JavaScript, I will not do any of these. So far, in my experience, after doing these, I've had a couple of problems with some of my plugins working, and it is because of this. So I will not use any of this JavaScript front-end stuff. And then the minify the HTML, yes, I will also turn that. So that's all for there. For media, image compression, you don't have to do it. Personally, I do like 25%. This just makes your file sizes a little bit smaller so they load a little bit faster. I won't do any of these checkboxes and click confirm. And then this use WebP images. This is just a different type of image format that apparently is faster for loading, so I will go ahead and turn that on. Now, I obviously don't have any images uploaded here yet, so it just says converting 1 of 0, but on the sites that I migrated over from HostGator to SiteGround, some of them had a couple hundred images, so it did take a little bit of time for it to do that. Lazy loading, I am going to keep this off. We originally had it turned on with the other plugins because it was needed with the way that those websites were set up. For this website, because I'm hosting it with SiteGround and using these plugins instead of the other plugins that we were using, I'm not going to turn that on. And then you can do a speed test if you want to. I'm not going to do that here. So that is for the optimizing speed caching, which again replaces Optimizer. It replaces WP Supercache. It replaces heartbeat control, and it kind of replaces Jetpack, although we're still going to use Jetpack for the reposting. Then you have this SG security plugin. This is the other plugin that they automatically install that is going to replace WordFence. So you no longer need to install WordFence. You've got the site security option, and all of these are already set by default. So I'm literally not going to do any of the. I'm not going to touch any of these. The login security. So they do give you the option to customize your login URL here. I'm not going to do that with this because we are still going to use hide my WP. So everything we did with hide my WP in the other course content, stick with that. That's still what I'm doing. I'm not using this. But none of these, I'm literally not changing anything from the default of the SG security. It's just replacing WordFence, so we no longer need to use WordFence. So with that being said, that is the basics of building your website with SiteGround, and then all of the rest of the information from the course is the same. I hope you found this video helpful and you're enjoying the rest of the course content. Links for all of the tools, platforms, and resources mentioned in this video can be found below. Additionally, if you have any questions or need further guidance, feel free to leave your questions or comments in the comment section or reach out in our free membership community. You can also find additional free training and other valuable resources at xylarcade.com. Thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you in the next video. Take care.